Hello, this is Dr. Kathleen Rosenblatt, and I get to be here today in this amazing, legendary music studio and interview Jeff and Robert.
Yes.
And so I don't know their areas, but we're all going to find out together. So, Robert, let's start with you.
Okay.
What is I know you're in the film industry, but what is your offering? What is your niche?
My niche? Well, I'm still asking that question. When I moved out here to LA, I worked as a photographer on film sets. In fact, the first project I did when I was in LA was a feature called oh my God, it blanked on me.
It'll come to you.
It'll come to me,
But
that was 4 years ago. But it starred Tom Sizemore, the great Tom Sizemore from Saving Private Ryan, and I did set photography on that. And after that, I did set photography on a couple more films, and then I started DPing on commercials, specifically dental commercials, kind of outside the film industry. But recently I got into screenwriting. I wrote a short film called Player. It revolves around chess, which I've been playing since school, something I'm very passionate about. I handed the script to a director that I've collaborated with on multiple occasions, and she liked it. She really liked it, and so we're figuring things out. We're in pre-production on it, and we'll see how it goes.
Wow, that sounds interesting. I have more questions, but let's ask Jeff now. You've been in this industry a long time, and so tell us your niche and what is your favorite thing that you've done and are doing now?
Oh, the favorite thing I've done. Well, the fact that the industry found me, number one, way back in the 70s. And how that happened is like a gift from God.
Really?
So I had to embrace what was coming at me. And very quickly, there were opportunities. So that kept me moving forward. So within weeks of getting my first camera and my first media class, I was being asked to do professional work.
Wow.
And within a year, I had to cover some magazines. At that point, I'd already been asked to appear on PBS, and I had a radio show when I was still in high school.
Doing what with this radio show?
It was a Sunday morning show. It's where you start out as a kid. So you open the place up in the morning on Sunday mornings, and you write the news. You run the station all by yourself.
Wow.
And you do a 6-hour show. So you get everybody
6-hour
out.
show?
6 a.m. to noon, every Sunday.
Wow.
Jeff Morton, Music and God. Because it's a Sunday morning show, and you want to get people out of bed, get them up and off to church, synagogue, temple, mosque, whatever, right? Get their heartbeat going, a little bit of music, the news, right? Get immersed. So you get the day started right. And I had really great teachers. This is the old days of rock and roll. This was a top 40 back in those days in a small town and near DC. We had lots of companies in those days. So we had lots of engineers and very different worldviews. And I found that very fascinating. So that's kind of what led me into messaging, because you're dealing with people from multiple planets. You have to be able to be an interpreter. You have to be able to be a bridger in understanding what they're talking about. The words mean something different to them. They call that connotation. There's a difference between denotation, your dictionary definition. Then you get into how that same word is used in different places to mean much different things, and we see that today. So as we advance and move forward through technology, as Americans, innovation is core to our productivity. And for those of us that have lived up through it, we've always been asked to prepare the future. And so that's really why I'm here today, is to make sure that for our younger generations coming up, especially 18 to 22, 18 to 30-year-olds that are looking at that question right now, that we have a really good springboard of support for them, no matter what their point of view or where they come from. We're not asking everybody to think alike or think the same, but we certainly want them to have the advantage to get that launch done. Because if you don't get that first 10 years right off the bat, the rest of your life can be really not so good.
Well, this book that I've been writing about the 60s music, but it's really about the boomer generation, because after all, the boomers were born with the bomb. I mean, we've only known the planet with all this radiation circulating and all these bomb tests. It's all we've known is having that kind of energy around us, which is probably why we won't live as long as our parents did. Or, we're not even as healthy as our parents were, because we've had so many more DDT and all these things. But it's still, you lived through all these decades, and when you're handling the news in the 70s, when a lot of terrorist attacks were already happening.
My father handled the Gold Star program during Vietnam. So when any of my classmates' fathers died at war, which is really difficult, and it's challenging for children to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was my father who financially helped the families, take advantage of the programs. He was in banking, so that was a natural there.
And how did you avoid the draft?
It canceled before I,
It's over? Okay,
yeah, it canceled the year before, right?
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
But my town pioneered a lot of technology, so a lot of my classmates, their parents had gone through World War II, and so they worked for Warner von Braun building rockets for Germany.
Right.
So our country
Operation Paperclip.
Operation Paperclip. They brought the engineers over to America. They went to work for American corporations, and then we had our rocket programs in the 50s and 60s, and I was raised with that. And my next door neighbor, and kind of like a father to me, headed the facility, our country's leading facility. So I got that exposure, and I had older friends as a younger person, so all big brothers. So you're constantly learning from your bigger brother about what you should be doing, what are you going to do with this. And you have the generation that fought in World War II and Korea, wanting you to, be strong, be able to, if you are called to duty, because the draft was going on, you be asked to survive, not die. You're not asked to die, you're asked to survive and get through whatever political people have made decisions on. You don't have a role in that. You just have to do your duty.
Well, the draft was a big deal, and
it was.
It turns out that we wouldn't have even had the British invasion if the England hadn't discontinued the draft, and that's what allowed all these rock stars, instead of going to the army, they were free. Whereas we lost Elvis and the Everly Brothers; they had to go in the army, and they missed their careers. They lost their careers to the Beatles.
But you know what? One of the things really special about the education in those days, we had shop. So I was in academic, I was in advanced program, part-time to high school and part-time to college, but I also had electronics, wood shop, metal shop, mechanical drawing. I had independent study physics.
Wow.
And so when we were writing and my classmates were writing, we knew how to do prose, we knew how to do poetry. So if we were writing songs or expression, but we had all these tools and we were competent with them by the time we were 18, graduating from high school, and we could go get a job while we were still in college, and that's what I did.
I missed all that. I went to Catholic school. They didn't have any of those things.
I got 3 years, the first 3 years, which was great, foundationally. But having the other opportunities, which have disappeared. I actually interned on one of the very first vocational technical movies about a town in along the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland, that it was a 400-year-old town. It was agriculture. But once they put a vocational technical center in, it changed the future for the kids raised in that community.
Wow.
And they were really competent with the tools, at hand. And so I was actually in my first college, as I told you, and I was asked to go intern on this movie, and I spent a week helping them to make this, telling the story of the state of Maryland's investment in our community, that I thought in the communities around her that mattered. I wish we had more of those.
What was
Robert,
the name of it?
how does this?
In the state of Maryland, it was called vocational technology, and they would build tech centers, and you could learn to use tools and equipment in communities where they didn't have that before, and that really changed people's vision of their future and their identity for what they could do with their life.
How does this resonate with you, Robert, hearing these stories of previous decades? I mean, that you didn't.
Honestly,
you
I
had
wish
different things to deal with.
I wish I could go back and experience that. That's just simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're technologically, we're in a completely different era, and
about to go into another one, or in the beginnings of another one. It's
I know, and and I'm nowadays I'm just thinking like, how is AI going to factor into all this, into the education system? It's a brave new world. So
May I tell you, one of my favorite artists today is a young lady. She's about 22 years old and playing in Germany, and she likes to recreate famous musicians. And I say I always love young folks who keep alive my generation and their grandparents' generation, our music. And she's just dynamic. The Cena drums. So if you ever get a chance to listen to Cena drums, you'll understand what I'm talking about. She's got a gift. She's talented. Her timing is incredible. She doesn't have the punch of a big guy on the drums, but her timing is impeccable. And she's
recreating music from
all the greatest drummers in history.
Well, just the fact that she's a human drummer, because I'm so tired of synthesizer drums, you know. And when I listen to Charlie Watts or Mick Fleetwood, where he says, I like it a little greasy, you know, I like the rhythm loose, and you know, the Wrecking Crew, they'd have these drums that were just kind of loping along, and they were human, because humans don't breathe like this. We breathe here, we breathe there, and we kind of, you know, go. But those synthesizer drums make me crazy, especially. I think factory music as opposed to loping, syncopated rhythms, and so.
I agree, and we're together.
Yeah.
I actually helped market back in the 80s when the first synclaviers was brought in, so getting into digital sound. And it was like back in like 1985 or 86, somewhere in that time frame. I'm losing track. You know,
George Harrison and Stevie Wonder, they all integrated it into the whole group, but it wasn't like the main thing. It was like they used synthesizers here and there. It was just part of, but there was still a human feel to the music.
They're painting the sound. It's different than playing the sound, which the computer is just going to imitate. But when you can actually paint with sound, you're with the mood, with the moment, you're with the mood, with the audience. I love that about this evening's event. The performers, first rate.
You know, when I walked in and heard them doing Give Me Shelter, it's like, I consider it like the #1 best rock song ever, you know.
Yes.
And so it was really fun. I mean, I videotaped this guy because I'm like, bravo, you know, this young guy just doing Mick, you know, and just, it's such a great song.
Yeah. Well, actually, on the topic of music, I wanted to mention the Beatles, because there is a film coming out about there's a film for each member of the Beatles that's coming out. They shot all of them back to back, and they're released. It's directed by Sam Mendes, who did films like American Beauty, Skyfall. He directed each film for each band member, and from what I read, they're going to release all of them in April 2027, and like in April 2027, like every Friday, like one film for each band member every Friday, and it's going to culminate in like a film of them performing together.
Wow.
So it's like you know where we are with streaming, with serialized television now, like weekly episodes. So they're doing the same thing with this film, you know. Yeah, like I said, every week one band member, and it culminates with the finale film of them performing together.
Wow, that's great.
So,
well, in this book that I've written, actually, you know, 2 companion books, I'm just trying to show how fantastic the music was in the 20s and the 30s. You know, Bessie Smith and Billie Holiday. I was addicted to these singers.
Yeah. Well, the benefit of making films about artists from those times, I think they will reintroduce those musicians to audiences that aren't familiar with them.
I mean, the 60s was incredible, but you don't have to just go back to the 60s. The 50s had incredible vocalists. That was the peak of vocalism. You know, where, you know, Ella Fitzgerald was at her best, Frank Sinatra was at his best in the 50s. They were all just peaking. And there was this assumption that you could really sing. Now, granted, I love Tom Waits and I love Bob Dylan. They can't really sing, but I love their voices. But still, to hear the voices in the 50s, it's incredible. You know, how many sounds that they could create in one voice. You know, Joe Williams. Oh my God, amazing.
I love to share those on my playlist with friends to remind them of the true quality and the effort that went into that. Many of them were conservatory trained musicians.
And then folk
singers.
music was incredible. Folk music was fabulous. You know, Peter, Paul, and Mary, they just knock me out more now than they did then. You know, and so it's just, there's so much great music that now people are not being exposed to at all because everyone has their niche and they just listen to what they like, and they're missing out on so much amazing music.
You know, my music teacher, as I say, taught me guitar, and I spent 4.5 years with her training because my career finally allowed me to have a little bit of time and a walk-off set to go have 1 hour a week with her. Kay Lewis of the Lewis Sisters, and also known as the Teachers. Her and her sister were who Barry Gordy hired to help develop the Motown and California Motown.
Wow.
So
Wow.
you get taught by pros like that, and they give you an appreciation. And all you're really trying to do is unlock something within yourself
Yeah.
as a part of your own career and your development, and you go through struggle, and you know that somewhere inside, that creative juice that was in your youth has to come back. So let's go find that again. You get to your 40s or 50s, you got to go find that again.
And the one nice thing about musicians is that they are allowed to grow old. You know, and I saw Eric Clapton recently, and I thought maybe his fingers were going to be a little arthritic by now. Oh my God, his fingers were going. He's just standing there so relaxed, and just his fingers are going crazy. You know, I mean, he's not rocking out like, which is okay too, but he's just elegantly playing these songs that you can't believe are possible. And what is he, 70, whatever, you know? But they're still going strong. Musicians, they get better with age. Not necessarily, but a lot of them do. Get better, their voices. Jackson Brown's voice got better with age. You know, it was still this little boy sound, but then he had this richness added to it. And I've treated a lot of these with acupuncture, and Jackson was in my living room for a political gathering, and you know, they're still out there. And that's something about that generation, about my generation, that they're still out there doing stuff, and they're 70, 80 years old, whatever.
I want to tell you a little side, because you brought that up.
Okay.
One of the things that Jackson was known for is he loves family. Okay? So while I'm at Brooks Institute up in Santa Barbara getting my film degree, one day his wife turns to me and says, "Hey Jeff, what are you doing tonight? Would you like to be my date on stage tonight?" Jackson's playing at the Bowl with Don Henley. And he wants a family atmosphere, so there'll just be you and me sitting in the chairs on stage. That's the
Listen,
character Jackson
yeah.
cares about family and his wife. This is back in the early 80s, so you go through these changes, but I was young, they're inspiring me, and we need to do that for each other.
And we need
never
to wrap
stop.
it up now. I guess our time is up.
We're
But
up.
what is your access? What is your data that we can share with people?
I have an Instagram. It's at Robert_Tapaltzian, and I'll spell that TAPALTSYAN. So you
Great.
can find me there.
Okay. Okay.
I'm actually recovering from my disability, so I don't really do a business anymore, but
Great.
anybody can feel free to send me an email at j.morton, MORTON, 4 at iCloud.com.
Okay.
And that's Jeff Morton.
Well, my website is called Brain Body Bliss, because as an acupuncturist, I deal with the brain and the body and create bliss. You know, I deal with anxiety and depression while I work on the backaches and headaches and things. And this book, my website is called youthplanet60sbook.com. So I appreciate really talking with you guys. This was fun talking about music, and I hope we can talk some more. So thank you, Dr. Kathleen Rosenblatt. Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you guys. Okay, if you can slide.